al-Qasim, had not rebelled against the regime. He had not invited anyone to give allegiance to him. He had not instigated anyone against Harun. His only fault was that he had inherited the knowledge of prophets and was the imam of truth and guidance. Falsehood is hypocritical, whereas the truth is without a partner. Never accept a moderate partnership of truth and falsehood. Imam in detention. Harun ar-Rashid sent his sepoys to Imam Musa al-Qasim. He was then performing prayers near the blessed grave of his grandfather. The sepoys arrested and handcuffed him and dispatched him to Basra. Isa ibn Ja'far ibn Mansur was the governor of Basra at that time. He kept the imam in prison for 1 year and then wrote to Harun, "If you do not remove Musa ibn Ja'far from my custody, I shall release him because I have tried my best to find some evidence against him but could not get any." Harun imprisoned Imam Musa al-Qasim in Baghdad under the care of Faisal ibn Rabi, and then transferred him to the prison of Yahya, and later to that of Sindi ibn Shahiq. Eventually Sindi poisoned him to death. According to another narration, he was wrapped in a carpet and the servants sat on him. And he died of suffocation. While discussing the persecutions by Bani Umayyah, it was mentioned that all these evils and crimes were due to grudge and inherent cruelty. However, when discussing the personality of Harun ar-Rashid, it came to my mind that after attaining rulership, the nature and morals of the ruler changed. When they saw that their position was established, they assessed everything from the perspective of the security of their position and strength. Faith, knowledge, and conscience were of no value to them. If we do not consider rulership to be the cause of the change in mentality, how can we explain the behavior of the weak persons, who become stone-hearted and bloodthirsty when they acquire a position? What I mean by position is not confined to governmental offices. It also includes even religious positions. It is so because a religious leader is also like a government leader. Both leaders protect their respective positions. The only difference is that a religious leader considers his position holy and considers its protection to be an article of faith. He considers its protection necessary like other holy things and religious rites, and there is no doubt that interest in religious position entails greater danger and more harm. Only the people of the Holy Prophet's household and a few of their followers are immune from this danger. 34. What has been stated above is a reality. Ayatollah Mohsen al-Hakim says in his book Mustamsik Ulur 35. Truly speaking, it is difficult for a jurist to maintain righteousness because change in righteousness takes place for everyone in every age. And when a person in a high position is no more righteous, he does not exercise much precaution, and does not call himself to account, quickly leading to the elimination of his righteousness. Being a marja is to be in a dangerous position where even big personalities stumble. Imam Rida, and Harun. Saeed Mohsen Amin writes. 36. After the demise of Imam Musa al-Qasim, Harun sent his commander, Jaludi, to Medina and ordered him to attack the houses of Abu Talib's descendants and plunder all the clothes of their women, leaving only one dress for each. When Jaludi approached the house of Imam Rida, the Imam gathered all the ladies in a room and sat down on the threshold. Jaludi said, "I must enter the house and take the women's clothes." The Imam swore to Jaludi that he would bring the clothes and ornaments of the women, provided that he Jaludi remained outside the house. Owing to the kindness of the Imam, he agreed to this. Imam Rida entered the room, collected the ornaments, clothes and other belongings, and handed these over to Jaludi. The latter took them away and presented them to Harun. When Mamun ascended the throne, he expressed his indignation against Jaludi and wanted to kill him. Imam Rida was also present in this gathering. He recommended to Mamun to forgive Jaludi. Jaludi remembered having wronged the Imam, and he thought that the Imam was speaking against him. He, therefore, turned to Mamun and said, "I ask you in the name of Allah not to accept the words of this man about me." Mamun said, "I swear by Allah that I am not going to accept what he says." He then ordered Jaludi to be beheaded. Harun committed many atrocities on the descendants and followers of Imam Ali, but for the sake of brevity, we refrain from presenting a detailed account. What has been said above is sufficient to show Harun's character and throws ample light on his nature and policies. Amin, the Abbasid. Harun ruled for more than 23 years and died in Tus in the year 193 AH after taking allegiance for his son, Amin. The period of the Caliphate of Amin was a little more than 4 years. Abu al-Faraj Isfahani writes in Maqatal at-Talibayan, the attitude of Amin towards Abu Talib's descendants was different from that of his predecessors. It was because he had spent his life in pleasure and luxuries. After that, a war ensued between him and Mamun in which Amin was eventually killed. During the reigns of Amin and Mamun, no incident of persecution of Abu Talib's descendants was recorded. Ma'mun ar-Rashid, the Abbasid. Ma'mun killed his brother Amin and ascended the throne. During the time of Harun and Ma'mun, the Shia faith became firmly rooted and its impact appeared in the court of Ma'mun also. Ma'mun's vizier, Faisal ibn Sal Zur-Riyasatain, was a Shia and so was Tahir ibn al-Husayn Khuzai, the commander of Ma'mun's army who conquered Baghdad for him and killed his brother Amin. In short, there were many Shias in Ma'mun's administration and that was the reason he began to fear Faisal and Tahir. He, therefore, killed Faisal and dismissed Tahir from commandership of the army, and appointed him as the governor of Herat. Ibn Athir writes in Tariq Kamil, in connection with the events of the year 250, that the entire tribe of Tahir was Shia. It is an undeniable fact that the persecutions, murders, and tyrannies of despotic rulers on the Shias became the cause of further expansion of the Shia faith. The more injustice they committed, the more people rallied around al-Bayt, and for every single person who was killed, thousands embraced the Shia faith. The following event will clarify this matter. When Sindi ibn Shahiq poisoned Imam Musa al-Kazim, he took 80 desk scholars and community elders to his body and said, "You can see that he was not tortured and has died a natural death." He invited the people to see that there was no wound, bruises or any other sign on his body which might show that he had been murdered. Harun did this because people suspected that he had died of poisoning and this suspicion was sufficient to cause the people to revolt against him. Then the Imam's bier was placed on the Baghdad bridge, as most Shias lived in that area. They made announcements. Musa ibn Ja'far has passed away. Come and see him for the last time. The Shias got agitated, but before a disturbance could develop, Sulayman ibn Ja'far, Harun's uncle, took the funeral bier from the custody of police and carried it barefooted along with a large crowd. He pretended that he was escorting the funeral procession as a mark of love for the Imam or for the sake of his kinship to him. However, the fact was that he was afraid of a revolt against his nephew, Harun, and thus wanted to calm down public sentiments. Ma'mun came to know that a large number of Shias were inclined to Imam Rida, and that they were displeased with his father, Harun. Rather, they hated the former Abbasid rulers. He thus declared, hypocritically and deceitfully, that he was a Shia to win their sympathies and attract public opinion towards him. He began defending the caliphate of Imam Ali, affirmed his truthfulness, and acknowledged that he was superior to Abu Bakr and Umar. In reality, he did all this to safeguard and strengthen his rule. It is surprising that most Shias also could not perceive the designs of Ma'mun and held a favorable opinion of him. The fact is that Harun and Ma'mun acted for an identical purpose, and that was to strengthen their regime. Their ways differed, but their real goal was same. Harun poisoned Imam Kazim, and Ma'mun poisoned Imam Rida, The only difference was that Ma'mun realized from Harun's mistakes that an open persecution of Ali's descendants would be equal to political suicide. Imam Rida, and Ma'mun. Imam Ali ibn Musa ar-Rida was the best human being of his age and enjoyed the highest position in the view of Allah and the people. Historians say that when he passed through Nishapur, 37,000 flocked on the roads to welcome him. The scholars held the reins of the Imam's mount and wanted to benefit from his knowledge and to hear from his blessed tongue the tradition of his ancestors. Imam Rida's Eid prayer and Ma'mun. Ma'mun requested Imam Rida to lead the Eid prayer, but the Imam excused himself according to the terms agreed at the time of his appointment as heir apparent. When Ma'mun insisted further, the Imam agreed to his request, but said that he would go out to lead the prayer in the manner of the Holy Prophet. Ma'mun agreed to the terms of the Imam. People were waiting to see Imam Rida coming out with the same pomp and glory as the caliphs and rulers did. But all were shocked when they saw that him came out of his house barefoot, reciting Takbir 38 and walked towards the ground for Eid prayer. Government officials and members of the royalty came down from their horses and they also took off their shoes, and followed the Imam weeping and chanting. The Imam, or recited the Takbir thrice at every step. It is mentioned in books that Faisal ibn Sahl said to Mamun, if Imam Rida arrives to lead prayers in this condition, he will enchant the people. It is, therefore, my suggestion that you call him back. Mamun sent someone to ask the holy Imam to return. And the Imam called for his shoes, put them on, mounted his horse and returned home. Mamun decided to lower the prestige of the Imam in the view of people and to tell them that if the Imam hated the world, it was because he could not lay his hands on it, and if he could acquire rulership, he would accept it very gladly. He, therefore said to Imam Ali ar Rida, son of Allah's messenger, I want to abdicate and to hand over the rulership to you. Thereupon the following conversation took place between them. Imam Rida, if the caliphate is your right and Allah has specified it for you, you cannot forsake it and hand it over to someone else, and if it is not your right, you cannot lawfully present it to someone else. Mamun, you must accept the caliphate. Imam Rida, I take pride to be a servant of Allah, and by means of piety, I want to keep away from evils. By avoiding unlawful things and by means of meekness, I hope to acquire proximity to Allah. Mamun, if you don't accept the crown, you must become my heir apparent. Imam Rida, Allah knows that I am not pleased to accept this. Mamun, do you want to tell the people that you are an ascetic? Imam Rida, by Allah, I have not told a lie throughout my life and never abandoned the truth for the sake of the world, and I know what your object is. Mamun, what is my object? Imam Rida, you want to tell the people that Imam Rida is not inclined to material wealth because it is beyond his reach. As soon as he had an opportunity, he agreed to become the heir apparent. Mamun became angry and said, by Allah, if you do not agree to become my heir apparent, I shall kill you. Imam Rida replied, if it is such, I agree to it because Allah has forbidden me to put my life in danger. 1. Will accept the heir apparent position on the condition that I shall not interfere in state affairs, nor shall I appoint or dismiss anyone, or give any order, or give any judgment, or bring about change in any matter. I will only advise from a distance. Mamun accepted these conditions. The intention of Mamun was to tell the people that as a result of becoming the heir apparent, Imam Rida had also become interested in the material world. However, the course adopted by the holy Imam increased his dignity and honor. When Mamun got tired as the tricks adopted by him were not successful, he poisoned the Imam to death. Mamun behaved towards Imam Rida in the same manner as his father Harun had behaved towards Imam Musa al-Kazim, and as Mansur had behaved towards Imam Ja'far Sadiq. He employed deceit in the same way as Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan had done in the case of Imam Hassan. To protect their regimes, the despotic rulers did not exercise any restraint in shedding the blood of the saints of Allah. However, this sacrifice-giving attitude was natural in the view of noble men and reformists in the path of truth. It is on this account that we love the reformers and despise the despotic rulers and do not accord them any religious standing. Mu'tasim, the Abbasid. In the year 210 AH after the death of Mamun, allegiance was given to Mu'tasim. He ruled for a little more than 8 years. He was succeeded by Wathiq who ruled for 5 years. Abu al-Faraj Isfahani, author of Makatalat Talibayan writes, Muhammad ibn Qasim ibn Umar ibn Ali ibn Abu Talib rebelled during the reign of Mu'tasim. He was defeated and imprisoned, but later he escaped. Abdullah ibn Husayn ibn Abdullah ibn Ismail ibn Abdullah ibn Ja'far ibn Abu Talib refrained from wearing a black dress which was the color adopted by Bani Abbas. Mu'tasim kept him imprisoned till he died. Mu'tasim imprisoned Imam Muhammad Taqi. Later he released him and asked al-Fazl, the daughter of Mamun, who was the wife of Imam Taqi, to poison him. She acted on the instructions of Mu'tasim and administered poison to the holy Imam. Sayyid Mohsin al-Amin writes, Wathiq honored Ali's descendants, behaved kindly towards them and also gave them wealth. Mutawakkil, the Abbasid. After Wathiq's death, his brother Mutawakkil became the caliph. He ruled for 14 years. Mutawakkil became notorious for his free living, immodesty, and alcoholism. Masudi writes, Mutawakkil was the first Abbasid caliph to participate in fun parties and merriment. Justice Saeed Emir Ali writes, 39. During the time of Mutawakkil there had appeared signs of disintegration of the Islamic Empire. Corruption had found roots in all departments of the state, and orders were given that others should also imitate the evils. In the time of Mutawakkil, the broad-minded persons were deprived of their rights and, as a result of this nonchalance, the Turks dominated the government and assumed charge of the affairs of the state. It is mentioned in Maqatalat Talibayan that Mutawakkil made severe attacks on Abu Talib's descendants and subjected them to great hardships. He bore them grudge and leveled various charges against them because he was suspicious of them. Mutawakkil appointed Umar ibn Faraj Rakji as the governor of Medina and Mecca. This ill-natured governor stopped the people from meeting Abu Talib's descendants and did not allow anyone to help them. Whoever rendered them the least assistance was punished severely and fined heavily. The economic condition of Abu Talib's descendants became so bad that one shirt circulated among a number of Sayyid women to offer prayer one after another. When the shirt was worn out it was patched. Mutawakkil desired that the womenfolk of Abu Talib's descendants should stay in their houses and a number of them should offer prayers using one patched shirt, whereas the loose women associated with the court displayed their gold ornaments and silken dresses. Once, Harun ar-Rashid had also sent Jaludi to take away the clothes of Sayyid women, leaving only one dress for each, but Mutawakkil persecuted them so much that they were obliged to live without clothes. That is how the ways and manners of Quraysh, the children of the chiefs of Arabia, changed. With the passage of time, Abu Talib's descendants got scattered during the time of Mutawakkil. According to some historians, if Mutawakkil is called the Nero 40 of the Arabs, it will not be wrong. Because many descendants of Abu Talib went away to unknown destinations, and those like Ahmad ibn Isa al-Huwaysani and Abdullah ibn Musa al-Huwaysani died in hiding, whereas some others like Muhammad Ibn Salah and Muhammad ibn Ja'far revolted against Mutawakkil on account of his oppression. Mutawakkil did not content himself with persecution of the living. He even showed disrespect to the graves of the dead. He demolished the tomb of Imam Husayn and buildings around it and banned people from performing ziyarat. He announced that if any person went to perform ziyarat of Imam Husayn's tomb and was arrested he would be put into prison. 41. A poet says about Mutawakkil, by Allah, if Bani Umayyah mercilessly killed the son of their prophet's daughter, Bani Abbas also acted in a similar way and demolished his grave. They regretted not participating in his murder, but after death, when the bones had decayed, they went in their search. Ibn Abul Hadid has written 42 that Mutawakkil had good relations with Ali ibn Jaham because he also bore malice towards Imam Ali. He suffered from the habit of abusing the departed ones. One day Abu Alayna saw him abusing Imam Ali, and said to him, "Do you abuse Ali because he killed both the active as well the passive partner of sodomy, and you are also a passive homosexual?" Steadfastness of Ibn Sikkat. Ibn Sikkat was a distinguished scholar and a literary personality of his time. Mutawakkil appointed him as the tutor for his son, Mutaz. One day Mutawakkil asked Ibn Sikkat, "Whom do you think are better, Mutaz and Muayyad or Hassan and Husayn?" Ibn Sikkat looked in disdain and replied, "By Allah, I consider Kambar, Imam Ali's slave, to be better than you and your sons." Mutawakkil ordered the Turk slaves to pull out his tongue from the back of his head. When his tongue was pulled out in this manner, Ibn Sikkat died and met the fate he had feared for in his following verses. He says, "A brave youth is killed owing to the slip of his tongue, but a man does not die if he hits the ground. Owing to this slip in his speech, the brave youth lost his head. But if the foot of a man stumbles, it gets healed in a few days." Mutawakkil had kept a court jester named Ubadah. He used to tie a pillow onto his belly and he danced before Mutawakkil while the singers sang, "The big-bellied caliph of the Muslims has arrived." It was meant to ridicule Imam Ali. Mutawakkil enjoyed this scene, drank wine and laughed. One day this scene was performed before Mutawakkil's son, Muntasir, who said to his father, "The person whom this clown is ridiculing and thus making the people laugh, was your cousin and a distinguished person of your family, and you should feel proud of him. In case you want to ridicule him, you should do so in solitude and should not leave this task to such dogs. Mutawakkil then asked the singers to sing a very obscene verse that we dare not to translate. Through this, Muntasir came to know that Mutawakkil even abused Lady Fatima as Zahra. He approached one of the ulama to give a decree on this matter. The scholar said, "It is necessary to kill him, but the life of one who kills his father is shortened." Muntasir said, "If I kill him in obedience to the command of Allah, I do not worry if my life is shortened." He, therefore, killed his father and lived after him for only 7 months. Allah has made the love for the Al-Bayt obligatory in the Holy Quran and treated it as the reward for the labor taken by the Prophet to convey the divine message to the people. However, those who ruled over the people in the name of religion and considered themselves to be his near ones, shed the blood of his descendants and subjected them to countless persecutions and hardships. Those who deny the prophethood of the Holy Prophet did not cost Islam dearly. What is harmful for Islam is that persons like Mutawakkil should declare themselves to be Muslims but should oppose Islam and campaign against it like infidels and enemies of Islam. The incidents related to Bani Abbas, as narrated above, are sufficient evidence to form an idea about their ugly nature and inauspicious conduct. Ibn Rumi: one of the principles of Shia faith is that the world can never remain without the righteous persons and divine guides, who invited people to good and restrained them from doing evil. Shia doctrines have always been preached from pulpits and through books, and the crimes of the mean persons have been rendered null by logical reasoning and proofs. They do not forsake patience and steadfastness in the path of truth on account of persecutions and hardships, and campaign with great valor against evil and the forces of falsehood and perversion. Shias also believe that in every age there should be some followers of truth to fight, in the capacity of jurists, poets etc. During the period of Bani Umayyah and Bani Abbas, there were some sincere believers who stood firmly against falsehood. They defended and supported truth and exposed themselves to danger. Among those fighters we can see many scholars, jurists, poets, and others. History has recorded the names of many such poets. However, some of them did not disclose their names for fear of the despotic rulers, or the cancellation of their stipends, and did not reveal their Shia faith. Among those whose names historians have recorded is the poet Ibn Rumi. In his panegyric known as Qasida Jimia, he speaks about the misfortunes of Yahya ibn Umar ibn Husayn ibn Zayd. O Bani Abbas, you continue to commit crimes due to your inherent meanness and by your miserliness. Go on hoarding wealth in the public treasury. Wait for the day when the right reaches the rightful ones. And you also suffer affliction like Abu Talib's descendants. It is possible that the revolutionary leader behind the curtain of occultation may arrive, and the dark night may turn into a bright day. Is it proper that Abu Talib's descendants remain deprived of rations whereas the bellies of your associates bulge out, and you proceed to your palaces proudly shaking your hips? And is it proper that the bones of Imam Ali's descendants should become apparent owing to hunger, whereas the bones of your children become fat owing to the country air and their arms and legs should grow plump? Professor Mahmud Aqad says in his book, Ibn Rumi, the poet composed these verses without any selfish interest. In fact, by composing these verses he exposed himself to danger. Abu Faraz Hamadani. Abu Faraz wrote an elegy describing the virtues of Ali's descendants and the crimes of Bani Abbas. Some of his verses are quoted below. Truth has broken up and religion has been torn to pieces and the legacy of the Prophet Caliphate has been tarnished. O people of the world! Does Allah not help the people against the mischief of the oppressors, and does Allah's religion not have an avenger? Imam Ali's descendants are indigent in their own land whereas the affairs of the state are in the hands of women and slaves. The heart of the Prophet is offended on account of the lashes. Then why don't you respect the family of the Messenger? Despite their great crimes, the descendants of Abu Sufyan committed minor crimes as compared with yours. How much breach of trust you have committed with the religion and how much blood of the Prophet's descendants you have shed. If a judgment is given in light of justice, Harun is not like Imam Qasim and Mamun is not like Imam Rida. Write to Bani Abbas not to talk about the government, because the government is in the hands of Ajam. 43. Pride is especially meant for scholarly persons wise enough to solve all questions and remove all the difficulties of the people. You should not pride yourselves. When they are angry, it is not for the sake of anyone other than Allah, and when they give a judgment, they do not ignore Allah's rights. Quran is recited constantly in the house of Imam Ali's descendants, whereas in your houses there are music and songs. None of them manufactures wine in their houses. Their houses are not a refuge for crimes. There are no pretty children in their houses with whom they may live in pleasure, and they do not have any monkey that so many servants need to be employed for. The Rukn, the Kaaba, Astar, Zamzam, Safa, Masjid al-Kif and Haram are their halting places. May Allah's blessings be on them till the leaves of the trees touch one another, as they are the refuge for the nation. These verses of Abu Faraz manifest the greatness of all al-Bayt and prove that they are entitled to the caliphate, and their right has been usurped. These verses refer to the rule of Bani Abbas in the name of religion, and it has been affirmed that they were the worst enemies of religion. In their lofty palaces there were wine, adultery and music, although Ali's descendants had to face oppression and persecution while in their houses Quran was recited, Allah was remembered and worshipped. Such regimes wish to portray themselves as religious, but they shall be considered deviated and perverted so long as they are headed by the likes of Mansur, Rashid, Mamun and Mutawakkil. That is why Shias believe that a just and religious regime can be established only when the ruler is an infallible imam, or the administration is in the hands of a righteous religious scholar who seeks the pleasure of Allah and His Prophet. If it is not so, the regime will be not religious and divine. Like contemporary regimes, it would be worldly. All the persecutions that the al-Bayt and Shias had to suffer were perpetrated by rulers who ruled in the name of religion, but they were far away from religion. For their deficiencies, the rulers took revenge on the learned and accomplished persons. They wanted to show that their acts were exactly according to religion. They, therefore, endeavored to find out fake ulamas who might legitimize their acts. It is mentioned in An-Niza wa Taqasim. 44. Pride ruled the minds of Bani Abbas, and they became egoistic. They respected the views of non-Arabs and accorded them precedence over the orders of the Prophet. They wrote new chapters of their hard-heartedness and cruelty. In the religious government of Bani Abbas, the monarchs trampled upon the commands of the Prophet and followed the polytheists. Dibil Kuzai was the most courageous among the poets known to history. He suffered extreme hardships in connection with his campaign against falsehood and defense of truth. Among those he condemned were Harun, Mamun, Mu'tasim, Wathiq, commanders of the army, ministers, and the sons of the caliphs. He criticized them without any fear or anxiety. When Mu'tasim entrusted the command of the army to the Turks and gave them discretion over the lives, property, and honor of the people, Dibil said, "The kingdom has slipped away from the hands of the people and fallen into the hands of boys and servants, and it is a great calamity." When Mu'tasim died and Wathiq succeeded him, Dibil said, "A caliph died, who was not mourned by anyone, and another came in his place with whom no one is pleased, because he that has come is the leader of injustice and deviation, and the chief of hypocrisy and perversion like his predecessor, as the Quran says. Each group on entering hell will curse the other dwellers until all of them are brought together." Therein 7:38. Dibil described the dictatorship and despotism of Bani Abbas and their acts of killing, imprisoning, plundering, and exiling the people in the following verses. "When I think about the crimes of Bani Abbas, my hairs stand on their ends and my heart bursts with anger. They insulted the people and resorted to threats, murders, plunder, arson, imprisonment, torture, and exile. If you happen to go to Tus, kiss the purified grave of the Imam and ask whatever you want from that honored saint of Allah. There are two graves near to each other in Tus. One belongs to the one who is the best of creatures and the other of one who is the worst. It is edifying. Can that impure one derive any benefit from that purified one? Can the reputation of the pure one be affected by the filth of that impure one? Never. Neither Imam Rida suffers owing to the proximity with Harun nor Rashid gains anything by being near him. Dibil excuses Bani Umayyah for their crimes. He says, as soon as Bani Umayyah assumed the control of government, they openly declared their enmity and said that they were opposed to Ali and his descendants. However, while fighting against Bani Umayyah, Bani Abbas formed a common front with their cousins and their slogan was the restoration of the rights of the Prophet's progeny. However, when the government fell into their hands, they became dictators. Dibil further says, if it had been decided that time should laugh, we would have prayed that Allah might not give it the strength to laugh because the Prophet's descendants have been subjected to cruelty and persecution. The Prophet's descendants have been sent into exile from their homes and cities as if they had committed an unpardonable crime. The elegy of Dibil known as Qasida Taya 45 is a verbal proof of the crimes of Bani Abbas. Qasida Taya is a historical document which will last forever. This elegy depicts the dreadful killings by Bani Abbas. We are not aware of anyone among the poets, revolutionaries, and elegy reciters who may have expressed enmity and hatred against the rulers in the manner done by Dibil. His poetic verses were memorized by young and old and all recited and preserved them. They were so popular that even dacoits sang them. When Dibil read Qasida Taya before Imam Rida, the latter rewarded him with a large sum of money. Dibil said, Master, I want a piece of your garment which may serve as my shroud. The Imam gave him a woolen shirt. Dibil traveled from Merv to Baghdad with a caravan. On the way the robbers looted the woolen shirt and other property of the caravan and began to divide it among themselves. In the meantime, one of the robbers recited this verse. Their inheritance is distributed among other people, but their own hands are empty of their inheritance. Dibil asked the robber, whose verse is this? He replied, it is the verse of Dibil, the poet of all al-Bayt. Dibil said, I am Dibil. The robber was frightened and said, are you Dibil? Dibil replied, yes. Thereupon the robbers returned everything they had looted. When the people of Qom learned about this event, they offered to purchase the shirt from Dibil, but he declined to sell it. The people, however, insisted and took it from him, giving him in return 1,000 dinars. When he lost all hope of retaining it, he requested them to give him only a piece of it. The people of Qom agreed to this. Imam Rida wept. When Imam Rida heard the verses of Dibil,